Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. I hope you guys have had a great day out there. Great work week so far, halfway through it. A little bit closer to the weekend. We're all thankful for that. Going to be a big video tonight. We're going to cover a lot of topics, two or three topics here. There's going to be really one big main thing we're going to talk about, and that's the potential for, not really the potential, it's looking very likely that we're going to have a significant and very impactful storm system early next week that could really bring some significant severe weather, the chance for a pretty impactful winter storm for a lot of folks, maybe even a blizzard. And then this could eventually work its way to the eastern seaboard. And the jury's still out on what it's going to do to the eastern U.S., but I certainly think it's going to bring some the potential for some nasty weather. What the term nasty means pertaining to what kind of weather we're going to see, we're just unsure yet. We're also going to talk a little bit on a quick moving system that has kind of trended more amplified for areas of southern New England. This could potentially bring some kind of some mood flakes for areas of southern New England, maybe late Sunday night into Monday morning. We'll talk about that, how much snow could potentially fall from that. This has kind of trended to maybe an actual appreciable event here, I would say, in the last 24 to 48 hours. So it's certainly worth talking about. And then we'll talk about also that pattern change that we kind of been talking about every once in a while in some videos, because I really think after this big system moves through, this is when we're going to have kind of the front door to this pattern change. It's really going to begin to slowly inch our way into really a favorable pattern for more cold and maybe a stormy pattern for areas in the east. So we'll talk about that. We've had some somewhat consistencies on the models over the last 24 to 36 hours, a little bit better. So we'll talk about that. So certainly, if you guys hear my girls in the background coughing, we're still battling a cough in the West household. So do apologize about that ahead of time. But we're fighting a cold. We're fighting a little bit of a sickness, and we're definitely going to get through it. So I appreciate the prayers that I was asking for this morning. They really go a long way. I really do. But if you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like the video if you like it, and if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can too. I really need to work on not making these intros so long. I do apologize, but at least I've found time to put timestamps on these videos now so y'all can just skip right over it if y'all don't want to hear all that. So I don't blame you one bit. But Storm Prediction Center, so I talked about this a little bit. This morning, we now have a 15% chance at day 6. This would be for Monday, this coming Monday. Obviously not the Monday that just passed, but this would be for next week, early next week, this coming Monday. A 15% risk to see severe weather in this yellow area. This includes Dallas, Oklahoma City almost, up to Tulsa, not quite the Little Rock, but then we go to day 7, which is next Tuesday, about 6 days from now, and we have a even larger area we need to watch. And I've always kind of talked about, I was a little worried about Tuesday more than Monday, kind of in yesterday evening's video. I'm going to talk about why a little bit, but there's still a question. I think both days have a chance to see the potential for some significant severe weather. What significant means in this case, we're not sure. If this is going to be a big tornado event, big hail threat, a big damaging wind threat, we're not going to know that until we get into this weekend, Friday and Saturday, especially Saturday. When we get into these short range models, we'll begin to really be able to break down the storm mode and what's going to be the biggest threat. But I can already tell you, the ingredients on these models, on these global models, are already looking not good, threatening for sure. So this is pretty much a slight risk at day 6 and 7. That's a level 2 out of 5. We'll see if one of these gets upgraded to a 30% chance, which think of that as an enhanced risk at anything past day 3. So that's a level 3 out of 5. So we also need to talk about this right here. And I meant to exit out of that, but that was just the site that I use, which, by the way, all this is available to you guys. It really is. I would say 70% of these sites that I use is available to the public. They're all free. Now, a lot of these sites that I do use is you got to pay subscriptions monthly, but I certainly want to get you guys the best graphics and the best information out here. But here it is. This is day 7, probability of exceeding a 1/4 inch liquid equivalent of snow and sleet. So you have a 50 to 70% chance in this kind of bluish greenish area right into here. Um, not any huge cities in this area, and this area is known for big winter storms and blizzards, high wind events. But the Dakotas and areas in Minnesota need to watch out for a major winter storm starting early next week. There's going to be a cold side of this low pressure, which is the north and west side. And there's going to be a warm side, which is the severe side. So, I mean, if you're in Minneapolis, right now, just that 10 to 30% chance to see that threshold I just mentioned. But this could go up, guys. It could. And this is going to be significant for this area because it could be an all-out blizzard. And certain areas could see well over a foot of snow. If we keep it on going here, oh man, that just took its sweet time, didn't it? This is the deep digging trough moving through. We're getting into Monday morning. Deep mid-level trough moves through into the western U.S. And already you got moisture starting to pump into Texas. Dew points reaching the 60s, even 70s in certain areas. Moist sector already building ahead of this in the south central U.S. This continues to move through. And then you have a low pressure that begins to come off the front range of the Rockies. This actually closes and begins to strengthen, and you just have a ton of strong winds at all levels of the atmosphere. It'll even be windy at the surface where you're physically standing, but the low levels, the mid levels, winds will be screaming, and there'll be a lot of what we call kinematics, that favorable wind pattern for severe weather, the things that put a spin to the atmosphere with a changing of wind directions with height and changing of speed with height. We call that shear. So we're certainly going to have that in this case. Now, this is the mid-levels. We'll show you the low-level jet here in a bit as we're moving through here. But listen, this is a lot of mid-level winds, very strong winds, and this is just going to be a high-amplified storm system that could potentially bring in a pattern change for a lot of the country, the central, the eastern U.S. also. But this is going to be a powerful cyclone, land cyclone here for sure. So going forward here, if we look at the precipitation map per the latest GFS, here comes the low pressure right here. You see the L coming off the front range, moving out of Colorado, starts to scoot into the plains. And already you got snow moving into the Dakotas, Minnesota. And then this is getting into Tuesday, but you already could have severe weather ongoing right into here, into the south central U.S. as this low pressure is to the west and northwest and north over here. Moisture is already building into this area. So this low pressure begins to scoot over across the plains. A lot of cold air on top. Snow could reach as far south as central areas in Nebraska, but a lot of heavy snow. Just north and west of this low pressure will be enough cold air. But of course, if you're right up on the low pressure and you're east and south of it, you're probably just going to see rain. But backside cold air is going to move through and change a lot of areas to snow. But there is going to be severe weather down here. Now, this is for Tuesday evening right in here. I know this just shows up as green, but this is likely going to be severe weather. But, you know, if you're in the Ohio Valley, I've had a lot of people wonder, you're going to be in the middle of the severe weather and the cold side of this, the snow. And I really think there's going to be a chance that severe weather could reach all the way up to sections of the Ohio Valley and the northern areas of the Mississippi River Valley here. But it's a big question mark on how high. It just depends on how high this little sector of moist and warm air rises, really, because there's going to be plenty of wind energy in all levels of the atmosphere to the north. The kinematics will certainly be maxed out further north of the moist sector, if you will. But this will move through, and then we watch what happens with this system as it gets into late next week. We're getting into about 7 days out. And we need to watch a little in-situation CAD event that we call this cold air damming. These little events trend colder sometimes when we get into the shorter range. So we need to watch out for some ice. I'm not calling it right now, but if you're in the mid-Atlantic, I would say late next week, watch out for some ice. Just saying. Just saying. As of right now, I'm not going to talk on it much, but this system will eventually get to the southeast Thursday into Friday of next week. And this could bring some impactful weather. And then we watch cold air behind it. But let's talk about the severe weather. And we're not going to stay on this long, guys, because really we're going to be going over the same information probably for the next few days until we get into the short-range model guidance so we can really, really figure this out as far as what the storm mode is going to do. One thing we know, low pressure flies across the front range and gets into the plains. And as it does, it's bringing southerly winds, southwesterly winds, and it's going to yank up all this moisture. These are what you call dew points. So dew points, once you get into the 60s, you certainly that's an ingredient for severe weather, that moist, humid air. It's certainly going to be here. You're going to be feeling it in the Dallas-Fort Worth area Monday, moist atmosphere, and I would not be surprised if this trends even more moist, as this will be a strong system and this surface low will be deepening. It'll pull in a lot of moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. So there's going to be a stout moist sector all the way up into potentially areas of southern Nebraska, which will have dew points in the 50s, which really isn't super moist air, but for this time of the year it is. This moist sector will begin to get a move on, start to move into Arkansas, and then Tuesday, I really think the epicenter of the nastiest severe weather will be into Louisiana, Arkansas, maybe up to southern Missouri, northeast Texas, and this is where we could have some severe weather. It'll be very humid, and it's just going to be an atmosphere that's going to support some severe weather. We look at Cape values. This is what concerns me. Obviously, the higher the dew points, normally the Cape values rise with it. This is mixed layer Cape. Cape is basically the juice to the atmosphere that you need for these storms. So the available juice or a fuel to these storms that can that really fuel off of. And really, we're looking at around Monday evening. You got Cape values already showing up on the European model, reaching 900 to 1,000, even above joules per kilogram. If the global models are showing this already this far out, I can almost guarantee you the short-range model guidance, short-range models, the CAMs, convective models, are going to show even higher. And, as we're getting into Tuesday morning, these Cape levels, this is in the wee hours of the morning Tuesday, reaching almost 2,000 joules per kilogram. So I really think this could be going on overnight, also Monday night to Tuesday. But the timing, we need to figure out. And then this starts to move into these areas I just mentioned for next Tuesday. Cape values reaching well over 1,000 joules per kilogram down here in Louisiana. And I think this will trend higher for Arkansas. So there's going to be a lot of juice. I know you're thinking, well, that's not a lot. But when you add that mixed in with such a, I wouldn't say maxed out, but such a high-end climatic atmosphere, you're overlapping favorable dynamics for severe weather. So when you have that area that has the best overlapping of dynamics, that's where you're going to have the most high-end severe weather. So another thing we look at here is the kinematics. So this is that low-level jet that we talk a lot on. Around Monday, around midday, well, this is around early afternoon, you got a 40, maybe as much as a 50 knot low-level jet right over these areas of the southern plains. Of course, you got it way up here too, but you got a lot of cold air up here, so it doesn't matter. But down here, we continue to go through the overnight hours, and then we get into Tuesday, which is really my concerning day right now. You got a low-level jet pushing 40 to 50, maybe even 60 knots. And these winds are going to mix to the surface. So not only a mile and some change up in the atmosphere, which is where a low-level jet in general sits, 850 millibars, but at the surface, these winds are going to mix too. So it's going to be strong winds. And I think not only are we going to have a tornado threatening here, we're probably going to have some damaging winds that are going to line up for this area. So an intense low-level jet, guys. So we need to be concerned, but don't freak out. But just be aware of what's coming early next week. So I'm not going to talk too much on the snowy side of this. What I do want to show you is what the National Blend of All models are showing right now for the snowy side of this. And then we'll re-break down here in the coming days of what the precipitation looks like, timing. As of right now, between now and the duration of this event next week, we'll take you all the way out to next Friday morning, December the 16th. Widespread over foot snowfall totals for the Dakotas. Even, Wyoming, eastern areas, especially southeastern areas of Montana, and even some foot snowfall totals showing up in northern Nebraska. And then we go over to the north central U.S. You got the National Blend of All models showing around 7 to 8 inches for Minneapolis. But you just go just north and, all bets are off. You could certainly get well over a foot of snow. A lot of snow is possible. And then we go all the way into the upper Midwest here. And UP and Michigan. This is potential snow between now and Friday morning of next week. And certainly got some snowy times coming. The pattern is shifting. The cold air is building up in here and certainly in Canada. And I really think that this is going to be a big winter storm for our northern folks. It's really going to kickstart a cold pattern. One thing I want to talk about briefly is you folks up in the southern New England area. This system has kind of snuck up on us. This is for Sunday morning coming up. Low pressure moving in. You got some cold air situated in. This is for around Sunday midday of this coming weekend. You got, a little bit of snow falling for Pennsylvania, New York State. And then we switch it to Sunday evening. snow getting really close to New York City, northern New Jersey areas, and then we switch it, to the middle of the night, this coming Sunday night into Monday morning, and look how heavy the snow is over Long Island, New York City. So this is going to be a quick moving system, I think. Maybe it trends more amplified, but I really think we're going to have some snow flying around, even all the way to the I-95 corridor, the tail end of this coming weekend. This will be a sneaky event. It is. That could drop a few inches of snow potentially for these areas. You look at the Canadian model too, same kind of deal. It wants to bring a more intense snow, maybe a moderate snow event for areas of Connecticut. This is for Sunday evening, some heavy snow showing up. All rain for Long Island and New York City, but as this pulls away, a little bit cold air filters in overnight Sunday into Monday. And then potentially some snow makes it all the way to New York City. And we just have to watch this system. Boston also needs to watch this. It's not a huge system, but we need to watch what it does here in the next couple of days. But same thing with the Euro. I mean, Sunday evening, got some snow moving in for far northern New Jersey. New York State, almost all of the states seeing a little bit of snow. New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, seeing some snow. But it really kind of diminishes before it doesn't really make it far enough north for Boston to see much. So the National Blend of All models right now, reliable thing to look at, a few inches of snow showing up. Just, an hour or two north of New York City. You got a few inches of snow showing up for Connecticut, far western Mass, and southern sections of New York State, northern sections of Pennsylvania. So it's a little system again to watch. It's kind of just in between all the craziness going on. But going forward here, after this big system goes through, I'm going to start this off for around December 14th. This is 168 hours out. This is about 6.5 days from now. Cold air, colder than average temperatures. This is temperature anomalies from Fahrenheit. Colder than average temperatures in the west, warmer than average for most of the central and eastern U.S. There could be some CAD, cold air damming events that could keep a lot of people cool in a relatively ridged out or warm pattern. But in general, as we inch and get this system completely cleared off into Canada and the eastern U.S. that we just talked about in the beginning of the video, watch as we start to get into, not this weekend, but next weekend, the cold air begins to ooze into the central and eastern U.S. I think there's a lot higher confidence in the central U.S., but even the southeast, we're finally beginning to creep this colder pattern into the not the short range, but inside 10 days. We've been struggling to do this, but this has that exact look of a negative NAO. Cold air kind of intrudes into the lower 48, and it looks like they're getting some colder than average temperatures showing up at around day 8 to day 9, all the way to the eastern U.S. And then it continues for the foreseeable future, all the way up into the 20th of December. And then, even colder air might be brewing for the next few days leading up to Christmas. So it's something we need to watch. The latest GEFS ensemble that literally is still running right now, same kind of deal. We take it all the way out to around day 9, day 8, day 10-ish. Here comes the colder than average temperatures. We know it's going to stay cold in the west, and it's definitely higher confidence for the central U.S. But what are we seeing? Let's see if we can get the latest update here. Yeah, it's still running, but what are we seeing at day 9 or 10? It's starting to creep in, and then we're getting to day 11, day 12, and this is as far out as it gets right now. But colder than average temperatures showing up, and we're starting to get to a more favorable time of the year. We're seeing this in November. It just, it doesn't matter for a lot of folks, but we get kind of a shunt of the jet stream a little bit further south mixed in with this cold air. You never know what's going to happen, and I can already tell you, the GFS is starting to show some fantasy runs out there. But they're past 300 hours out, and they change back and forth like it ain't nothing. But I can tell you, the latest 8 to 14 day temperature outlook is starting to look exactly like what that ensemble runs I just showed you. It looks exactly like it. You're starting to see in that 15th to 21st time frame of December, below average temperatures creeping into the area. So is this going to happen for us right before the holidays? We'll see, guys. But I think there's some interesting times ahead, not just because of this system coming up, which I pray to God that we can get through without any severe weather. But even after that, it's a fascinating kind of thing to try to figure out. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. And God bless all y'all, and have yourselves a great rest of your night.